Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. My name is Kayla, and I am joined today with our friends Isaac and Rachel. And this week, we are all about Christmas. We are getting ready for Christmas, and we are going to be talking about how Jesus was born. But before we get into all the fun content with our podcast, I want to know, what is one of your favorite Christmas songs? So listeners, hopefully you're like me and you love Christmas music, or maybe you're not like me and that's okay too, and you don't like Christmas music. To each his own, but I know Isaac and Rachel, you both love Christmas music. So I'm really curious, what is a favorite song, or what is a song that's just kind of on repeat for you right now that kind of gets you in the Christmas spirit?
Well, I first have to say, if any of you are part of the Facebook group and know Jeremy Carroll, Jeremy's been singing Christmas music since last Christmas. I don't think it ever stops. So we've had a really good chance, this is a shout out for Jeremy, a really good chance to hear a lot of great Christmas music this year hanging out with Jeremy. But I think right now, honestly, I'm doing a little bit of a throwback, and I've been going for a whole album. So Relient K, one of my favorite bands from middle school, love them. And they have a Christmas album from many years ago, and I've just been jamming to that all Christmas season. A few weeks ago, I talked about hanging up my lights. I was listening to that the entire time. It was 70-something degrees outside, but it was great. I was up there jamming to Relient K Christmas. They have, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, all of the good ones. Yes.
That's amazing. Tell me you're a millennial without telling me you're a millennial.
It's right there.
Relient K and hanging up Christmas lights. Yes. It's a dream.
It is the dream. It is the dream.
I love that album, but I was thinking, I enjoyed that a little bit older than middle school.
I don't think that one was middle school, but I started my Relient K love in middle school.
That's hilarious. Rachel, what about you? Is there a Christmas song that you or your family just really love and enjoy?
Well, I love Christmas songs, and my family likes Christmas songs, so I might wear them out a little bit. But one of my favorite Christmas albums is Made for Kids, but I love it. And it's called Waiting Songs by Rain for Roots. And it's such a fun Christmas album. But one of the songs that I really love is called Mary Consoles Eve. And there's this line that says, "A baby comes to save us from sin, a servant king, his kingdom without end." And I think it's just such a rich song. And it's all the songs are sung in really fun ways that I think for adults and kids alike, or at least I hope adults, because I really, really like it. But that's the one that jumps out at me.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Rachel, I love that you're on this podcast with us. Thank you so much, because I know I'm over here like Relient K, and I also know Kayla's favorite Christmas song. So thank you for just giving us the deep content that these people want.
What are you trying to say, Isaac? You're saying I'm not deep and don't have spiritualness about me? Is that what you're saying?
Kayla, what is your favorite Christmas song?
Okay, well, my favorite Christmas song is my favorite Christmas song from last year and the year before and the year before that. I am faithful to my Christmas music. But one of my favorite Christmas songs is Thistle-Hair the Christmas Bear from Alabama Christmas Album. And it's just my favorite. It's just fun. It's uplifting. And it's just a sweet song. But Alabama Christmas is one of those albums that's like my go-to, it's Christmas time now album. But I will say, to take it to a different direction, one of my favorite Christmas albums, as you guys have both talked about those, is Behold the Lamb of God by Andrew Peterson. That literally is in my car 12 months of the year. I drive a very old car that still has like a CD player in it, and that little CD is right in there, and it stays all year long. Because it's filled with such hope and joy about Christmas and about the Christmas story, and I just listen to it really all throughout the year. And so one of the things that we love about Christmas are those songs, because they do remind us of joy and they remind us of celebration. But even, the Christmas songs that really are geared toward the Christmas story really help us savor that truth about how Jesus is God the Son, which is what we're going to be talking about this week. Now, I know you might be thinking, wait a minute, this is week 3 of December. Why are we talking about Christmas this week and not next week? Well, we know that as leaders, sometimes the holiday schedule gets mixed up a little bit, and we want to make sure, in case your next Sunday you don't have kids ministry, we decided we really wanted to put this week about how Jesus is God's only Son and about how Jesus was born in this week's content versus next week, just in case you are anticipating having kind of a family service next week. So that is why we put it here. But we're going to be looking at the traditional story from Luke 2 about how Jesus was born. It can be really easy for us, honestly, as leaders, even sometimes, to kind of rush through the Christmas story because it's become really familiar to us. But as we teach kids and as we teach preschoolers, I think it's really cool to know that so often, a lot of them, this is the first time they're hearing this story, or this is the first time that they're hearing the story from a biblical context rather than just from a cultural standpoint. And so it's really amazing that we get to teach such a story that may be really familiar to us, but some of the kids that are in our ministries are hearing this story from a biblical standpoint for the first time. And so it's just such a sweet time for us to slow down and to really savor and sink our hearts deeply into what this story is and what it means. So, Rachel, I would love for you to just kind of walk us through a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what to think on and prepare for as we talk about how Jesus was born from Luke 2. But then also, what are some things this week that we can teach and give to preschoolers and kids to kind of help them slow down and to really lean into the truths that we're teaching from this story?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we can even miss just some of the deep truths in the story and miss just how incredible it is to get to share the birth of Christ with our kids and preschoolers because, we just get so used to it, like you said. And I think it's going to be such a cool opportunity this week to really share about the birth of Jesus and to really talk about this is why we celebrate Christmas. Jesus is God's Son, and get to help our kids and preschoolers really let that sink into their hearts and to really understand that we do so many fun things at Christmas. And sometimes the Christmas season can even be really sped up with all the things that we do at Christmas where we don't have a chance to just stop and really savor why we are celebrating. And so I think this week, as we're teaching, it's such a neat time for us to really slow down in our classrooms, to really just savor the Christmas story and share it with our kids and preschoolers, because some may have heard it 100 times and they just need to be reminded that this is a true story that changes everything. Because Jesus was born and he came to earth so that we can know God. And I think for their hearts to be reminded of that. And then for our preschoolers and kids who maybe are hearing this for the first time, or their only connection to the Christmas story has been, like you said, a cultural understanding. And to really remind them that this is true and this really happened. And to just give them some time to process through the Christmas story and connect with it in a really special way as we focus on that Jesus is the Son of God. I think it'll just be a really neat opportunity to connect to that main idea.
Yeah, I think that's great. As you were talking, it reminded me of this, now I'm going to date myself, but one of the books that I read as a kid that is now a movie, which is so fun, is The Greatest Christmas Pageant Ever. And it's the story of these kids who, you know, they're not in the cookie cutter mold of suburban life. And, you know, when they hear the story of Jesus, they ask questions that are like, what in the world? That's just so fun. And I just love it. But it just reminds me, like, with our kids and preschoolers this week, let's ask questions. Like Rachel, you were saying, like, this is real. This really happened. It's not just a sweet story that we tell at Christmas time. This is something that's real and that changes everything. And so I think it's great with kids and even at that preschool level, just to be inquisitive, be curious with your kids and your preschoolers, ask questions. I wonder if Mary was uncomfortable as she rode that donkey all the way into Bethlehem. I wonder what Joseph was thinking when X, Y, and Z happened. You know, just, I think that curiosity is a lot of fun, but reminding them of what the Bible teaches us and tells us, what we can know is true, and bringing it back to the heart behind why the story is here, because it tells us of who God is, that Jesus really is the Son of God. And that's the main idea that we're unpacking this week, both for kids and preschoolers. So Isaac, help us look towards this main idea in particular that really talks about Jesus' identity, right, as the Son of God. How can we help preschoolers and kids unpack this in a way that connects them to the truth that we're learning this month, which is, I am never alone, or for preschool, God is always with me? How do those two things connect?
Rachel, I love what you said there, because such an important part of all of this is to understand who Jesus is. And when we talk about how this wasn't just any baby, this wasn't just a freak occurrence. No, Jesus is God's son. And this entire story starts there. Because if he's not God's son, then the purpose of us learning that a baby was born in a stable and put into a manger, learning that shepherds came and worshiped him, learning that wise men came to meet him, learning that there were angels in the sky, all of that is just a cool story that we can hear at all sorts of different places. But the most important thing that we can learn this week and that kids can really grasp and understand is that Jesus is God's son. This wasn't done on accident. This was done for the purpose of God to have a relationship with us, for God to have a relationship with the preschooler in the room, for God to have and know the kid that you are teaching this Sunday at church. That is the point of all of this. This isn't just an accident. This is God's plan for us. When we talk about John 3:16, that God sent his one and only son for us. That is the purpose of Christmas. That is the purpose of the story. And we want kids to truly and really understand that all of this is really cool. It is amazing what God did through all of these circumstances. But honestly, it doesn't matter unless that is God's son. And the truth of it all is that Jesus is God's son. God sent Jesus so that we would not have to be alone, so that we could have a relationship with him every single day. And that is something to really get excited about.
That's great. Thanks, Isaac. You know, along those same lines, it's so cool in the way in which God sent his son Jesus, right? Like, he could have sent him in a myriad of different ways, and he sent him as a baby born. And it just reminds me of, yes, just the identity of Jesus. He is God's son, and he was born human. You know, he had to be fed by his mother. He had to learn to walk. Like, there are things of what it means to be human that Jesus experienced. And that's honestly kind of comforting to me as I think about this truth this month about how God is always with us and how we're never alone, because there are times when we feel alone, right? We feel lonely, and it's important for us to be reminded that God is with us and he experienced struggles and tribulations and trials and hardship as a human. And so we don't worship a God who does not know our pain and who does not know the struggles that we experience. He is not distant and far away from that. He is near, and he even came and experienced it himself. And so if you are a leader who may be wrestling with that, or maybe wrestling with some other things this week happening in your world, I hope that is an encouragement to you, just that as we teach about how Jesus is God's son, how he came, how he was born as a human being, he was 100% human and 100% God. He experienced the things that we experience. He experienced hardship. He experienced pain. He experienced suffering to an even greater degree than we do. And so hopefully you will be reminded that the God that you serve, the God that you worship, knows of your experiences because he experienced the same things, and because he is God, because he is with you in all of those things, even as you walk through them currently, he's there, he's with you, and you're not alone. So I hope that is an encouragement to you. And we pray that this week would be such a sweet time with your kids and preschoolers as you teach them this Christmas story about how Jesus is the Son of God. He was born for us. He was born so that we would not be alone. He came and lived and then died and rose again. And that is truly why we celebrate. And so we hope that as you are leading and teaching your preschoolers and kids this week, that you will be reminded of the hope that we have in Jesus, of the identity that we have in Jesus, and of how he is truly always with us. We are praying for you this week, and we pray that you will be just blessed and encouraged by what the Lord is doing through you and how he is leading and working through you and your ministry. And we will come back next week and wrap up with our final week in this particular theme, not the month, because we know there's a fifth Sunday coming, but we're going to wrap up the theme of Unwrapped and Joy, Joy, Joy. And we're going to talk about how Jesus is the light of the world. So you are not going to want to miss it. We'll talk to you later.